Valera, the alien commander, stepped down from the sleek silver shuttle onto the dry, dusty terrain of the human colony. The sun burned bright above, casting long shadows across the settlement. Her sharp eyes swept over the rows of small, uneven structures, their walls patched with metal and stone. She had visited hundreds of worlds before, yet there was something unusual about this place. Humans lived here as if survival was their daily sport, and somehow they thrived despite the harsh environment. Valera's reputation among her people was unmatched. She had conquered and trained countless species, and she firmly believed that pain was a weakness, a flaw humans carried in their fragile bodies. Aliens like her were made to endure without complaint. Emotions, suffering, and physical pain were tools to manipulate the weak, not signs of strength. Humans, she thought, would fall easily under the pressure of even minor hardship. Yet as she looked closer, she felt a strange curiosity. Humans moved with purpose, working together to build, repair, and protect their home. Some carried heavy loads. Others trekked across rocky paths without pause. Valera's sharp senses caught the faint strain in their movements, yet she saw no signs of panic, no screams of agony, no desperate cries for mercy. She frowned. It was unnatural. A human approached, carrying a bundle of tools on his shoulder. He was tall, with brown hair falling into his eyes, but what struck Valera was his calm confidence. His movements were smooth and steady, even under the weight of his tools. He stopped a few feet from her and bowed slightly. "I am Marcus," he said, his voice steady. "I will be your guide while you are here." Valera's lips curved into a faint smirk. "Guide me? You do not understand your own limits, human." Marcus tilted his head, studying her, but he did not take offense. "Then I hope to show you something different," he said simply. Valera's curiosity sharpened. A human who did not shrink at her words, who did not complain. This was rare. She decided, for now, to observe. The first few days were tests, though Valera called them lessons. She watched as humans carried water from a distant river, repaired broken walls, and cleared debris after violent sandstorms. She expected groans, collapses, or tears, but there were none. Humans grunted with effort, wiped sweat from their brows, and continued. They were tired, but not broken. Valera approached Marcus during one of the work sessions. "How do you endure this?" she asked. Marcus looked at her, then at the sun burning over the settlement. "We adapt," he said simply. "Pain tells us where to adjust, where to be careful. It does not stop us. We do not see it as weakness." Valera's eyes narrowed. She had faced countless species who thought themselves strong, yet crumbled under half the strain humans endured. She could not understand this mindset. That evening, Valera returned to the human shelter, a simple structure with walls reinforced with metal panels and local stone. Humans slept in small rooms or shared spaces, but the comfort was minimal. She observed Marcus tending to a minor wound on his arm. The cut was shallow, yet he cleaned it meticulously, applied a bandage, and continued working. Valera scoffed. "Such attention to minor injuries. In my culture, we would ignore this and keep moving. It is pointless to waste time on weakness." Marcus looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "Ignoring it does not make it stronger. Learning from it does." Valera shook her head, but the thought lingered. She could not ignore it entirely. The next morning, the real test began. A violent storm had formed over the nearby cliffs, sending torrents of rain and sheets of wind toward the settlement. Structures shook, and humans rushed to secure supplies and reinforce walls. Valera stood in the open, letting the wind lash against her body. She wanted to see how they would respond to real danger, not controlled exercises. Marcus appeared beside her, soaked but steady. "We can manage this," he said. Valira's eyes followed the humans as they braced beams, tied down loose panels, and helped each other carry heavy equipment. She noticed something remarkable. In the worst moments, they did not panic or retreat. They shouted instructions, offered hands to those struggling, and even joked in the midst of chaos. Pain, fatigue, and fear were present, but humans met them with focus and teamwork. Valira clenched her fists. This was unnatural. Pain was supposed to break them, yet it seemed to strengthen them. Every act of endurance, every risk taken, only highlighted their resilience. The storm reached its peak. Rain poured like a curtain, and thunder cracked the sky in violent bursts. One of the human workers slipped while securing a beam and twisted his ankle. Valira expected him to cry out, to collapse under the pain. But instead, he gritted his teeth, called for help, and rose again with assistance from two others. Marcus looked at Valira, his face calm despite the chaos. "See? We do not allow pain to define us. We work with it, through it, and beyond it." Valira turned away, unable to meet his eyes. Her belief in human weakness had begun to falter. She had faced countless challenges and endured far more than these humans. And yet she felt a strange sting of inadequacy. They were not broken. They were stronger than she expected. By the evening, the storm had passed. The settlement bore damage, but the humans were already repairing what they could. Valira walked among them silently, observing their resilience. For the first time, she felt a flicker of doubt about her own beliefs. Marcus approached her, holding a dry cloak. "You should rest," he said. "Even the strongest cannot face everything alone." Valira accepted it, but pride prevented her from showing any sign of vulnerability. She stayed on the edge of the shelter, watching as humans moved with purpose, despite fatigue and injury. She had always seen pain as weakness. Now she realized that enduring it, learning from it, and relying on others could be a strength far greater than anything she had imagined. That night, Valira lay in her quarters, staring at the ceiling. She could still feel the sting of the wind and rain on her skin, the ache in her muscles from the storm. For the first time, she wondered if humans were not merely enduring. Perhaps they were teaching her something. She thought of Marcus, of his calm confidence and his willingness to face danger without complaint. She thought of the humans who had laughed while carrying heavy beams, who had risen again after slips and injuries, who had worked together as if the storm itself could not break them. Pain had always been a measure of weakness for her species. It defined who could survive and who could not. But the humans, in their simple, stubborn way, had shown her that pain could be met with courage, resilience, and even compassion. They had not broken. And for the first time in her long life, Valira wondered if she herself could endure as they did. As the night deepened, the alien commander made a silent decision. She would watch them closely, learn from them, and test her beliefs further. Marcus would be her guide, not just through the terrain of the planet, but perhaps through the uncharted territory of human resilience. Little did Valira know, the real tests were only beginning. Humans could endure storms, injuries, and exhaustion. But she would soon discover that sharing moments of vulnerability, moments that went beyond physical pain, could challenge her in ways she had never imagined. For now, she slept fitfully, her mind alive with doubt, curiosity, and a grudging respect for the species she had come to underestimate. The first part of her journey was over, but the lessons had only just begun. The alien who believed pain was weakness would soon find that true strength was more complicated, and far more human, than she had ever allowed herself to understand. The morning sun rose over the human colony, painting the dusty buildings in gold and orange. Valira stepped outside her quarters, her senses alert. The storm from yesterday had left the terrain uneven and muddy, yet the humans moved as if nothing had happened. Their energy, their coordination, and their sheer will to keep going puzzled her. She had expected exhaustion, complaints, even collapse. Instead, she saw efficiency, determination, and a strange joy in overcoming difficulty. Marcus was already outside, directing a team of humans to reinforce the shelters weakened by the storm. His calm presence drew others' attention naturally. Valera followed silently, observing every movement. She could have taken over easily, using her superior strength and training to complete the work faster. Yet, she held back. She wanted to see how they would adapt under pressure, without interference. As she watched, a loud crack echoed across the settlement. One of the temporary shelters had begun to collapse under the weight of a broken support beam. Several humans rushed to the site, shouting instructions and coordinating their efforts. Valera moved closer, expecting to witness chaos. Instead, she saw order. Humans lifted debris carefully, stabilized the structure, and guided the trapped occupants to safety. Marcus was in the center, calm and authoritative, helping to steady a beam while directing others. His focus never wavered, even when a sharp piece of metal nicked his arm. He barely reacted, continuing his work as if the cut were nothing. Valera's eyes narrowed. This human's endurance was unlike anything she had seen. Most species would have crumpled in fear or pain, but Marcus and his people thrived under pressure. She felt a strange tension inside her, a feeling she had long suppressed, admiration mixed with frustration. After the shelter was secured, Valera approached Marcus. "You endure much," she said, her voice sharp but curious. "How can you continue after injury, after exhaustion, without showing weakness?" Marcus wiped his hands on a cloth, ignoring the small cut on his arm. "Pain is a signal, not a limit," he said simply. "We listen to it, we adjust, and we keep moving. Weakness is thinking pain can stop you." Valera frowned. "And yet you still bleed, you still suffer." "That is life," Marcus replied. "Suffering does not define strength. How you respond does." For a long moment, Valera said nothing. His words challenged everything she believed. In her culture, pain was a measure of limitation. Strength was the ability to endure without flinching, without pause, without reliance on others. Humans, she realized, measured strength differently, by adaptation, resilience, and cooperation. The day passed with more challenges. Valera accompanied Marcus as he led humans to clear debris, repair damaged vehicles, and secure water supplies from a river miles away. The journey was difficult, the terrain uneven and slippery, the sun merciless. She expected complaints, whining, or surrender, but humans only adjusted. They helped each other across muddy slopes, carried heavier loads for those struggling, and offered encouragement when fatigue set in. Valera noticed something unusual. Humans did not hide their pain, but they did not allow it to control them. When someone stumbled, they were helped up. When someone fell behind, others waited. Pain was shared, not endured alone. Strength, she began to see, was not about isolation or toughness. It was about trust, support, and persistence. As the sun began to set, Valera and Marcus set up a temporary camp near the river. Humans started small fires, prepared simple meals, and checked their equipment for the next day. Valera observed quietly, unaccustomed to this kind of domestic rhythm. She had never considered the small, quiet acts that allowed humans to survive, tending wounds, sharing food, offering comfort. That night, the sky darkened with clouds, and a chill wind swept across the camp. Valera wrapped herself in a thick cloak, unused to the cold, though her body was built for endurance. Marcus noticed and offered her a small folded blanket. "Thank you," Valera said stiffly. She had not expected this gesture. Aliens did not need comfort. Vulnerability was a weakness. Yet, Accepting the blanket did not feel weak. It felt different. They sat by the fire, the humans around them sharing stories of their day's work and small victories. Marcus spoke quietly to Valira, explaining the subtle techniques they used to survive, how they adapted to the environment, and how pain was a guide rather than a burden. "You see," he said, "we do not try to avoid pain. We understand it, respect it, and use it to grow stronger. That is how we endure." Valira looked at him, studying his calm expression in the firelight. She realized that Marcus had not only survived the storm, the injuries, and the hard labor. He had thrived. There was no arrogance in him, only focus and quiet confidence. She felt a strange pull, an unfamiliar awareness of her own limitations and vulnerabilities. As the night deepened, a distant howl echoed across the riverbank. The humans tensed, but not with fear. Marcus stood, listening carefully. "Wild creatures are nearby," he said. "Stay alert, but do not panic. We will handle it together." Valira followed as Marcus organized a small watch rotation. She could have acted alone, her strength far exceeding any human. But she remained, observing, learning, and unwillingly trusting. The humans were not weak. They were strategic, alert, and connected. Their strength lay not in brute force, but in their shared purpose and trust in each other. Hours passed without incident. The creatures did not approach. Humans relaxed, though their vigilance remained. Valira found herself sitting beside Marcus again, silently watching the fire. She noticed small details she had never considered. The careful attention he gave to his companions, the way he encouraged even the weakest member, the patience he showed when someone struggled. "You are different from your kind," Valira said finally, her voice low. Marcus looked at her, curious. "Different how?" "You endure pain in ways I cannot understand. You do not see it as weakness, yet you respect it. You grow stronger through it." Marcus nodded slowly. "That is what humans do. Pain is part of life. It teaches us. It connects us. Ignoring it or fearing it is what makes weakness." Valira remained silent, the words echoing in her mind. She had always believed that strength was the absence of suffering, that endurance alone defined superiority. But humans had shown her something entirely new. Resilience was not denial of pain. It was the courage to face it, to rise above it, and to support others along the way. That night, Valira found herself restless. She could feel the lingering aches from the day's work, muscles strained, joints stiff, and minor cuts stinging. Yet, unlike in the past, these sensations did not anger her or make her feel weak. They were lessons, reminders of effort and perseverance. She realized that enduring alone was not strength. Accepting help, learning from others, and sharing the burden was. As she lay on the thin blanket Marcus had given her, she could hear the soft breathing of the humans around her. They were tired, yet content. Their endurance was quiet but undeniable. She thought about how alien soldiers had often fallen under pressure, how pride and isolation could lead to failure. Humans, in contrast, were unpredictable in their resilience. They were neither fragile nor weak. They were clever, adaptable, and courageous in ways she had never fully grasped. For the first time, Valira felt a pang of uncertainty about her own beliefs. Perhaps her understanding of pain and weakness had been incomplete. Perhaps she had underestimated what humans could endure and what they could teach even the strongest alien commander. Morning came, and with it, another day of challenges. Valira rose early, feeling a strange anticipation. She would follow Marcus again, observe the humans, and test her growing understanding. The tasks ahead would be difficult, yet she no longer felt the need to prove superiority. Instead, she was curious. Curious about resilience, about courage, and about the humans who faced the harsh universe with quiet determination. As Marcus called the humans to gather for the day's work, Valira followed him without protest. She could feel the weight of yesterday's lessons pressing in her mind. Strength, she realized, was not just about enduring pain. It was about learning from it, sharing it, and rising above it with others. And so the alien commander who had once mocked human fragility began to change. The first seeds of respect, admiration, and doubt had been planted. She did not yet understand how far this journey would take her, but she sensed that the humans, and Marcus in particular, had already begun to challenge everything she believed about weakness, strength, and the meaning of endurance. The real test was still ahead. Valira would soon discover that human resilience was not limited to physical trials. There were challenges of trust, vulnerability, and shared hardship that she had never faced. And these would be far more difficult to endure than any storm, injury, or laborious task. For now, she watched the humans move with purpose, listened to Marcus's quiet instructions, and felt a strange, unfamiliar respect growing in her chest. The lessons of endurance were far from over, and the alien commander who had once believed pain was a weakness was slowly beginning to understand that it could be the greatest teacher of all. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, spilling light across the rugged terrain of the human colony. Valira stood at the edge of the camp, her eyes scanning the distant hills. Yesterday's work had left her muscles stiff, her body sore in ways she had not expected. Yet, unlike before, the pain did not make her angry. It was a reminder of effort, of limits pushed and lessons learned. Marcus approached, carrying supplies for the day's work. "Are you ready?" he asked, his calm expression steady. Valira nodded, adjusting the cloak over her shoulders. "I am," she said, though a part of her still felt unprepared for what lay ahead. The humans were preparing for a long journey to survey a nearby valley. The terrain was difficult, uneven, and rocky, with the risk of sudden storms and wild animals. Valira followed Marcus as he led the team, silently observing the humans as they carried tools, maps, and supplies. She had expected the journey to expose weaknesses, to test the limits of their endurance. But as always, the humans moved with focus, coordination, and determination. As they climbed a steep slope, a sudden rock slide occurred. Valira reacted instantly, catching a young human who had slipped. The weight of his body pushed her to her limits, and for the first time, she felt her strength tested in a way that left her breathless. She set him down, and the boy looked up at her, eyes wide but calm. "Thank you," he said quietly. Valira nodded, but a strange feeling tugged at her. She had saved many beings before, but this was different. The human did not collapse in fear or panic. He simply continued, trusting her and the team to keep moving. Marcus glanced at her, noticing the subtle change in her expression. "You're beginning to see," he said softly. "Strength is not just about power. It is about trust, resilience, and the courage to keep going when the world challenges you." Valira's lips pressed into a thin line. His words were not new, yet they struck deeper than ever before. She had always believed her way, enduring without help, without hesitation, was the only path to strength. Now, she wondered if she had been blind. As the group reached the valley, the wind picked up, cold and sharp. Marcus instructed the humans to set up a temporary camp for observation. Valira helped, her body aching, but she felt a strange satisfaction in contributing to the collective effort. Pain was present, but it did not control her. Instead, it reminded her of her limits and the effort it took to overcome them. That night, as the humans settled around the fire, a sudden roar echoed through the valley. Wild predators, drawn by the scent of food and movement, approached the camp. Marcus moved quickly, organizing the humans to defend the perimeter. Valira's instincts kicked in, and she positioned herself to intercept any threat. The alien's superior strength gave her confidence, yet she noticed the humans did not panic. They used tools, teamwork, and strategy to protect themselves, proving once again that resilience was more than raw power. During the chaos, Valira was grazed by a sharp branch, leaving a shallow cut on her arm. She instinctively touched it, expecting irritation or frustration, but Marcus noticed and handed her a clean cloth. "Here," he said. "We take care of each other. Strength is knowing when to accept help." Valira hesitated, unused to such gestures. Yet as he gently cleaned the wound, she felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. She had always seen vulnerability as weakness. Now she began to see it as a bridge between beings, a path to trust and understanding. After the predators retreated, the humans worked together to reinforce the camp. Valira observed quietly, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and admiration. These beings endured pain, danger, and fear, yet they did so with cooperation and focus. Their resilience was not silent stoicism, but active engagement with the world and with each other. Marcus approached her again as the night deepened. "You are tired," he said. "You should rest." Valira shook her head. "I cannot," she admitted, a rare confession. Her pride and training taught her to endure alone, but she found herself strangely unwilling to be alone. She stayed near the fire, listening to the humans share stories, laugh softly, and encourage one another. As the firelight flickered across his face, Marcus spoke quietly. "You see the difference now. Enduring pain alone is survival. Sharing it, learning from it, and supporting others, that is strength." Valira's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She had spent centuries believing her way was the only way, that endurance meant isolation and detachment. Yet, the humans showed her something she had never imagined. Strength could be shared, and vulnerability could coexist with courage. The night passed with uneasy quiet. The valley was alive with distant sounds, rustling leaves, the faint howl of predators, and the whisper of the wind. Valira felt her body ache in ways it had not before, yet the sensation was different. It was no longer a measure of weakness, but a reminder of effort, resilience, and the lessons she was learning. As she lay on her blanket, she reflected on the day. Marcus had shown her how humans viewed pain, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a teacher, a guide, and a bridge to connection. Valira realized that she had underestimated them. She had assumed vulnerability was weakness, yet here it was, being transformed into a source of strength. Sleep came slowly. Valira felt the ache in her muscles, the sting of her minor cut, and the lingering tension from the predator attack. Yet she did not fear it. She did not resent it. For the first time, she welcomed the sensation as a lesson in endurance, resilience, and trust. In the early hours before dawn, she stirred and noticed Marcus awake, quietly tending the campfire. He looked up at her and smiled softly. "You are learning," he said. Valira nodded slowly, though she did not speak. Words felt inadequate to describe what she was beginning to understand. Her beliefs, once rigid and unyielding, were shifting. Pain was not a flaw. Weakness was not simply endurance. Strength was far more complex, far more human, and far more profound than she had imagined. Marcus gestured to the fire. "Come sit, watch the light, rest, even if just for a moment. You do not have to bear everything alone." For the first time, Valira hesitated, then allowed herself to sit closer to him. The warmth of the fire, the quiet presence of someone she trusted, and the gentle reminder that strength could be shared created a new sensation inside her, one she had never felt before. It was not weakness, it was not surrender, it was understanding. Hours later, as the sun rose over the valley, Valira rose with the humans, ready for another day of work. The lessons from the night had settled deep within her mind. She could feel her perspective changing, her rigid beliefs bending under the weight of experience. Marcus noticed her quiet determination. "You are stronger than you know," he said. "Not because you endure alone, but because you allow yourself to learn, to trust, and to adapt." Valira's eyes met his, and she felt a strange, unspoken connection. She had always believed that her strength was her own, built from discipline and solitude. Now she realized that strength could also come from others, from shared experience, and from the courage to face pain with openness rather than denial. The day brought new challenges, climbing rocky slopes, crossing swift rivers, and repairing damaged equipment. Valira pushed herself, but unlike before, she felt no arrogance in her effort. Every ache, every moment of fatigue, reminded her that resilience was not about ignoring pain, but about embracing it, learning from it, and continuing forward with purpose. By evening, the humans had established a secure observation point overlooking the valley. They were tired, but satisfied. Valira stood beside Marcus, watching the sunset paint the landscape in shades of gold and red. The world was harsh, the work difficult, yet these humans had endured. They had thrived not despite pain, but through it. For the first time, Valira allowed herself to reflect honestly on her own beliefs. She had come here to prove that humans were weak, that pain was a flaw to exploit. Instead, she had learned that true strength was more nuanced. It was courage, resilience, adaptability, and connection. As night fell, Valira prepared for rest once more. Marcus offered her the blanket again, and this time she accepted it without hesitation. She lay down near the fire, feeling the warmth, the comfort, and the quiet presence of someone who had taught her more in a few days than her people had taught her in decades. The alien commander who had once believed pain was weakness was no longer certain of her convictions. Humans had shown her a new path, one where endurance was not solitary, where vulnerability could coexist with courage, and where strength could be shared. And as she drifted into sleep, Valira knew that the final lessons were still ahead. The greatest tests of her beliefs, her resilience, and her understanding of human strength had yet to come. But for the first time, she faced them not with arrogance or disdain, but with curiosity, respect, and a willingness to learn. The morning sun glimmered over the valley, casting long shadows across the human camp. Valira stood near the edge of a rocky cliff, gazing down at the settlement. Her body was tired, her muscles sore from days of travel, labor, and unexpected challenges. Yet, for the first time, she did not feel the weight of weakness. Pain still existed, but it no longer intimidated her. Instead, it reminded her of everything she had learned: endurance, resilience, and the power of trust. Marcus approached quietly, holding a small cup of water. "You should drink," he said. His tone was gentle, patient, and familiar. Valira took the cup, feeling the cool water ease the dryness in her throat. She had learned to accept care without resistance, to allow others to help without seeing it as a flaw. "The humans here, they are extraordinary," Valira admitted softly, her voice almost hesitant. "I underestimated them, and perhaps even myself." Marcus smiled, the kind of quiet, knowing smile that conveyed understanding without judgment. "You have learned well. Strength is not only enduring pain. It is how you face it, how you adapt, and how you allow others to stand beside you." Valera considered his words. She had always believed that strength was solitary, measured by how much suffering one could survive alone. The humans, and Marcus in particular, had shown her that true strength was more. Far more. It was courage combined with compassion, endurance paired with trust. She felt a deep respect growing in her chest, and something else, something unfamiliar: gratitude. The day's work began early. Marcus led the humans and Valera to survey a canyon further beyond the valley. The terrain was treacherous, with narrow paths, jagged rocks, and unpredictable winds. Valera moved alongside them, her senses alert. She expected her endurance to surpass theirs, yet she noticed something remarkable. The humans were not just enduring, they were thriving. They communicated, guided one another, and shared the burden of heavy loads without hesitation. Halfway through the journey, a sudden rock slide blocked their path. Several humans froze for a moment, unsure of how to navigate the shifting stones. Valera's instincts screamed to act alone, to clear the path with her strength. But Marcus placed a hand on her arm, stopping her. "Not alone," he said firmly. "We work together." For a moment, Valera hesitated. She had been trained to act alone, to rely solely on herself. Yet looking at the humans around her, she saw the same determination, trust, and cooperation she had witnessed before. She exhaled slowly, then nodded. Together they shifted stones, guided each other, and found a safe passage. Pain and effort were present, but shared, they became manageable. As they continued, Valera felt a sharp cramp in her leg. She faltered, nearly stumbling on the rocky ground. Marcus caught her by the arm, steadying her. "You are strong," he said, "but even strength is wiser when shared." Valera's lips pressed together, a mix of pride and new understanding rising within her. She allowed herself to lean on him, not out of weakness, but out of recognition that trust could be part of strength. She realized that she had been wrong for centuries. Pain was not weakness, it was the way one faced it and shared it that defined resilience. By the time they reached the top of the canyon, the sun was high in the sky. The view was breathtaking. Rolling valleys, rivers sparkling like threads of silver, and humans moving with purpose and determination below. Valera paused, taking it all in. She felt a sense of connection, not only to the humans, but to the lessons they had taught her. Strength was no longer a solitary pursuit. It was a shared journey. That evening, the group set up camp near the canyon's edge. Humans worked together to create shelters, gather water, and prepare food. Valera moved among them, assisting when needed, but also observing the subtle ways they supported each other. A hand on a shoulder, a quiet word of encouragement, a shared laugh after a difficult task. She realized that these small acts were as vital as physical endurance. They built resilience in ways her people had never considered. Marcus approached her as the sun dipped below the horizon. "You've come far," he said. "You see more clearly now." Valera nodded, feeling the warmth of the fire against her skin. "Yes," she admitted. "I see that strength is more than enduring pain alone. It is courage, trust, and connection. Humans, you taught me that." Marcus smiled, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "And you have learned well. You do not have to deny pain to be strong. You can face it, accept it, and rise above it." The night deepened, and the humans settled into their shelters. Valera prepared her blanket, a small comfort she had grown to appreciate. She lay down near the fire, her thoughts heavy with reflection. The journey had changed her. She no longer saw humans as weak, fragile creatures. Instead, she admired their resilience, adaptability, and courage. As she drifted into sleep, she felt Marcus's presence nearby, not commanding, not intrusive, but quietly supportive. She realized that vulnerability was not failure. It was an opportunity to trust, to connect, and to grow stronger together. She allowed herself to relax, feeling the shared warmth of the humans around her, the fire's gentle heat, and the comfort of companionship. The following morning, Valera awoke to the sound of movement. Humans were already preparing for the day's survey, and Marcus was at the forefront, guiding them with calm authority. Valera stretched, feeling her muscles ache slightly, but without complaint. She had learned to listen to her body, to respect its limits, and to work with them rather than against them. Pain was no longer a source of fear. It was a guide. Their journey took them further into the canyon, navigating narrow ledges, crossing streams, and climbing jagged rocks. At one point, a sudden gust of wind threatened to knock a human off balance. Valera reacted instinctively, grabbing his arm and steadying him. He looked up at her, eyes wide but calm. "Thank you," he said softly. Valera nodded, realizing that she had begun to understand the depth of human strength. It was not only physical endurance, but mental resilience, courage, and the ability to trust and help one another. Humans did not deny pain. They embraced it, learned from it, and supported each other through it. As the day wore on, the humans reached a plateau overlooking the valley. Marcus instructed them to rest, gather water, and prepare for the return journey. Valera observed quietly, her body tired but her mind alert. She had faced physical challenges, storms, and injuries, but the greatest test had been learning to let go of her pride and embrace trust, connection, and vulnerability. That evening, as the group settled around the fire, Valera spoke to Marcus. "I have learned much in these days. Strength is not what I once believed. It is not endurance alone. It is courage, trust, and the ability to face pain with others beside you." Marcus nodded, his expression calm and approving. "You have come far, Valera. The lessons are yours now. Remember, true strength is shared, not isolated. It is measured not only in survival, but in connection." Valera looked around at the humans gathered by the fire, their tired faces reflecting determination, resilience, and quiet joy. She felt a profound respect for them, a respect that went beyond admiration. She felt a connection she had never expected, an understanding that strength and compassion were intertwined. As the night deepened, Valera prepared for rest. She lay close to the fire, feeling the warmth and safety of the humans around her. For the first time, she allowed herself to be fully vulnerable, trusting in the shared strength and support that she had once dismissed. She understood now that courage was not denial of pain, but the willingness to face it with openness, empathy, and trust. Marcus sat beside her for a moment, quietly observing the stars above. "You see now," he said softly, "how humans endure, how they thrive. Strength is not just survival. It is the way we face pain, connect with others, and rise together." Valera nodded, her mind reflecting on all she had learned. Her rigid beliefs had been transformed by experience, by observation, and by the quiet guidance of Marcus and the humans she had come to respect. Pain was not weakness. Vulnerability was not failure. Strength was a combination of endurance, courage, empathy, and connection. The night passed peacefully. Valera slept soundly, her body tired but her spirit strengthened. She had faced storms, injury, and exhaustion, but the greatest challenge had been understanding the true nature of strength. Humans had taught her that strength was not solitary, but shared. Not denial of pain, but acceptance and growth through it. When the sun rose the next morning, Valera stood beside Marcus, ready to return to the settlement. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, not only for the humans' resilience, but for the lessons she had learned. She had come to the planet believing humans were weak, fragile, and inferior. She now knew the truth. Humans were extraordinary, their strength far surpassing what she had imagined. As they descended the canyon, Valera walked with a new sense of purpose. She no longer measured strength by isolation or denial of pain. She measured it by courage, trust, resilience, and the ability to rise above challenges together. Marcus walked beside her, a steady presence, and for the first time, she felt a sense of equality, partnership, and shared understanding. By the time they returned to the settlement, the humans greeted them with smiles, laughter, and quiet pride in their accomplishments. Valera stood among them, no longer an outsider, no longer an observer. She was a participant, a learner, and a believer in the extraordinary resilience of humanity. As she watched Marcus guide the humans through their daily tasks, Valera realized that the journey had changed her. She had come to teach, to observe, and to test, but she had learned far more than she had ever expected. Pain was not weakness. Vulnerability was not failure. Strength was connection, courage, and resilience, the very qualities that made humans extraordinary. And for the first time in her long life, Valera smiled, not with pride, but with understanding, respect, and the quiet knowledge that she had been transformed by the very species she had once underestimated. The lessons were complete. The alien who had once mocked human fragility had been broken, not by force, but by the quiet, steadfast strength of humans and the gentle guidance of one extraordinary human named Marcus. She had learned the greatest lesson of all. True strength was not endured alone, but shared, nurtured, and embraced together.